All right, guys, welcome to the third week of our Human Practitioner Workshop. I'm really excited to introduce today's guest. He's been a friend of mine for a few years now. He's the kind of guy I see at every clinic, every seminar, with his notepad ready to go. He's the first one asking questions, and I'm happy to call him a friend over these last 2 years. We've stayed in contact via social media. We'll see each other at the gym. He'll come by. He had two, I think, powerlifters. Correct. Two powerlifters at our most recent meet a few months ago, and they did great. Really excited to see him grow as a coach in this area. Phenomenal personal trainer. And today he's going to talk about energy balance. And I just want to introduce my friend Chris Ruman. So,
thank you. Hey everybody. Today we're going to be talking about energy balance and nutrition and how to reach your ideal physique. I work with powerlifters, but I also work with a lot of weight loss clients, people trying to drop fat and build muscle. So that's kind of the main idea, the main topic of what this presentation is going to be about. All right, first up we have energy balance. Energy balance is the relationship between energy in, calories in via food and drinks, and energy out, calories used for daily energy requirements. This relationship, which is defined by the laws of thermodynamics, dictates whether weight is lost, gained, or remains the same. Energy is never really created or destroyed. It is transferred on a daily basis. When it comes to energy out, energy is required for maintenance at rest, physical activity, movement, and for food digestion, absorption, and transport. We convert potential energy that's stored within our food, measured in calories or kcals, into three major destinations: work, heat, and storage. Energy balance can affect your metabolism, your hormonal balance, and your mood. We can estimate our energy needs by measuring the amount of oxygen we consume. All right, just to let you know, the first half of this is going to be a little bit of science, and then we'll go into application later on. All right. So what is a calorie? Calories are a unit of heat measurement. 1 calorie equals the energy required to raise temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. Calories are not an actual physical thing. They simply represent the bodily metabolism of macronutrients in our diet. All right, a little quote by Lyle McDonald said, "It's just faster and less tedious to write that someone has a 500 calorie surplus than it is to write that someone has a nutrient surplus resulting in the storage of excess nutrients that represents the amount of stored energy that would raise a certain amount of water by a certain number of degrees Celsius if the body required to oxidize it for energy." So the main idea here is just that calorie is a unit of measurement. It's not an actual physical thing. It just measures the macronutrients in your diet. All right, what's a calorie again? When we are talking about our diet, we are actually talking about kilocalories, or calories with a big C. Kilocalories make up 1,000 calories, or the lowercase c. A kilocalorie is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree Celsius. Approximately 1 pound of fat is going to be 3,500 calories. So when you're looking at your diet, usually you're looking to drop weight, you're looking to drop fat, you're looking at trying to have a caloric deficit of 3,500 calories. Losing 1 pound on the scale does not mean you actually lost 1 pound of fat. Body weight is made up of fat, muscle, water, bones, organs, and any waste left over. So just because you are in a deficit of 3,500 calories doesn't necessarily mean it's all coming from fat. It could come from other parts of your body. All right, energy balance. For a deficit, you need to consume less calories than you are burning daily. For maintenance, you're going to consume and burn equal amounts of calories, and for a surplus, you're going to be consuming more calories than you're burning. Some key points for energy balance. The standard textbook view of energy balance doesn't offer consistent explanations for body composition changes. If you neglect to explain the importance of metabolic interventions, exercise, or drugs to achieve desired results while avoiding calorie restriction with equal loss of lean mass and fat mass, calorie overconsumption with an equal gain of lean mass and fat mass, people will likely end up a smaller or larger version of the same shape. They'll lose muscle along with fat. So if you are not training properly. You're not doing resistance training. You're not exercising properly. When you gain weight, you're going to become a larger version of what you currently are. As you lose weight, you'll be the same. You're going to drop, you're going to look smaller, but you're not actually building any muscle. You're going to look essentially the same, up and down. That's why you need a good resistance training program. If you go to the gym, come to the high performance center, work with Taylor and Santuan, they get you on a program, and they'll get you in the right direction. You'll start building muscle. And you'll start, you follow a proper training program, you can figure out what your goals are and how to accomplish them. If you're not lifting weights, if you're not resistance training, it's going to be very hard to build any kind of muscle mass. All right. Overall lifestyle habits are most effective to achieve and maintain a healthy energy balance. It is more efficient to not eat the 1,500 calorie fast food meal than it is to burn it off. So if you're trying to lose weight, nutrition, diet is going to be vital. It's going to be huge. And it's going to be a lot easier to take in less calories than it is going to be to burn them off. Right. Total daily energy expenditure, or TDEE. The definition, it's calories burned throughout the day. It includes all the energy that you burn sleeping, working, exercising, and even eating. It's often referred to as calorie maintenance. So what you need to do to maintain your current weight. Meaning this calorie amount will help you maintain your current weight. Just said that. All right. It is important to know your TDEE when trying to set up a proper bulking or cutting diet. You add calories to bulk, you subtract calories to cut fat. Your basal metabolic rate is going to make up between 50 to 70% of your TDEE. The absolute minimum amount of energy your body needs to sustain itself. So if you're just sleep in bed all day, you did not get up, whatever calories you burned that day would be your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. You would need to sleep to measure this, which is impractical. Most studies use resting metabolic rate. So your resting metabolic rate, you're awake, you're up, you're moving around, but you're really not doing much. If you just kind of lay on the couch all day. But you are somewhat active. All right, what affects your resting metabolic rate? Your gender. Men tend to have a higher resting metabolic rate, mostly due to more muscle mass and hormones, like testosterone. Age. As you get older, your RMR starts to slow down. Genetics. Some people have great genetics, some people not so much, and that's going to affect your RMR. Fat mass. Fat accounts for a very small amount of your total RMR. And then lean body mass. So how much muscle mass do you have? All right, lean body mass. Your body composition, it's the percentage of fat, muscle, bone, and water in the body. The lean body mass is everything except fat. It includes your skin, your organs, your skeletal muscle, and water. If you go, you can do like a DEXA scan, or they have like in-body different scans. You can actually get this checked, see where your body fat percentage is, and as time goes on, you keep doing those scans, you can see the trend and see if your body fat percentage is going higher or going lower. Right. The more muscle mass you have, the more efficient you will be at burning fat. The more exercise plus more muscle mass you have, the more calories you will burn. Organs account for nearly 60% of your total RMR, so your organs are really going to be burning the most amount of calories, but muscle can contribute about 25% of your total RMR. So again, it's not going to be a huge change, but if you can get a decent amount of muscle mass on, you will be burning more calories more efficiently. Even if you're at rest, you're still burning more calories if you have more muscle mass. The thermic effect of food. It's about 10% of your TDEE. Protein, 1 gram of it is 4 calories. About 20 to 30% of it will be used as energy for absorption and loss in processing, which means only about 70 to 80% of the protein you eat is actually going to get absorbed. Carbs, 1 gram is 4 calories. About 5 to 10% of it is actually going to be used. If calories are being converted to fat, it may take up to 23% of energy to process them. So it's going to take more energy to turn those carbs into fat, to be stored as fat. Fats, is 1 gram equals 9 calories. It's about 0 to 3% And fats can be stored in fat cells with minimal processing, so it's very easy for the macronutrient fat to be converted into actual fat storage. And alcohol is 1 gram, 7 calories, and it's got 20%, so about 80% of it is going to be. Alcohol is a weird one. You'd have to have a whole other presentation on alcohol, but just know 20% of it is going to be used to be absorbed. Some research has found that insulin-resistant individuals may have an impaired TEF response to eating with a rough 50% reduction occurring. So again, genetics are going to play a role in your thermic effect. The larger you are, the more insulin-resistant you become, or if you have diabetes, something like that, it's going to be, the thermic effect of your food is not going to be as efficient, which again, will make it more difficult to lose weight. Thermic effect of physical activity, 15 to 30% of your TDEE, and it's going to be a big range. It's really going to depend on how active you really are. It's going to be exercise, the type, the intensity, the duration, the volume of your exercise. Most people are going to overestimate this amount. So if you have a fitness tracker, I think those things, I think they're great. I have a Fitbit right now. I think they're awesome, especially for looking at your NEAT, which is a subject we're about to explain. But as far as physical activity goes, it can be very difficult to really estimate how many calories you're actually burning during your workouts. So if you're trying to lose weight, it'd probably be a better idea to underestimate where you're actually at. Excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, or EPOC. It's the energy it takes for your body to calm down and go back to rest after exercise. So you have a really heavy, difficult, high-intensity exercise, your EPOC, it's how much energy you're still burning after you work out. Aerobic exercise can affect RMR, although usually not by very large amounts. Generally, higher intensities will lead to higher EPOC. So the more difficult the exercise, the more you're working out, the higher your EPOC. Some studies have shown that properly performed weight training can raise RMR quite significantly. So weight training is probably going to be your bread and butter. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. Daily activities that do not count as organized exercise. This is a big one that a lot of people don't really focus on. They'll go to the gym, they'll work out really hard for an hour, maybe 2 hours, really burn a ton of calories at the gym. But then they go home and they just sit on the couch and they watch Netflix all day. And you have to think about what are you doing the rest of the day, because the rest of the day, if you're trying to lose weight, you still need to be burning those calories. So things like chores, walking the dog, standing, going from a resting state to a moving, just fidgeting, pacing, fitness trackers, smartwatches can be a great way to track daily NEAT and movement. In general, men tend to have higher NEAT. And then you hear about hard gainers. It's difficult for people to gain weight. Those people tend to have very high NEAT. They tend to be very fidgety. They move around a lot. It's hard for them to stand in one place. And as you're doing that throughout the day, you're constantly moving around, you're burning calories the entire day. Adaptive thermogenesis. Thermogenesis just means the production of heat. All right, your metabolic rate can increase when there's temperature changes. If it's really cold weather, you start shivering. That will raise your metabolic rate. If you have fever or injury, your metabolic rate can increase by 10% or more. And weight training can increase your metabolic rate. When your body weight decreases, it can cause a decrease in your basal metabolic rate, it can cause a decrease in your NEAT, and it can cause hormonal changes. This can all affect how quickly or how slowly you lose weight. Your body essentially goes into a survival mode in fear of famine. Right? So as you're dropping weight, your body doesn't know that you're on a diet. It thinks that you're in a famished state. It thinks that it's never going to get food again. So it starts to slow down all your processes. It starts to slow down your BMR, slow down your NEAT. You're not moving around as much. Your body wants to keep that fat stored so that you still have energy to keep your organs running properly. A caloric deficit will still cause weight loss, but your body will find ways to decrease its caloric output. Only after a prolonged period of starvation will your body turn to proteins within muscle tissue as a fuel source. So your main fuel source is going to be carbohydrates. Once that depletes out, you're going to move to fat storage. When you are severely starving, your body is going to start taking from protein from your muscles. Shifting the energy balance to reach your ideal physique. Now we're going to talk more about the application of all the science that we just talked about. This is a sample of what a caloric deficit, maintenance, and surplus looks like. Let's say you have a male who is 30 years old, he's 5'10", he's 170 pounds. His basal metabolic rate is 1,800 calories per day. So that's how much he's burning without doing anything. Then his caloric intake every day, let's say he's eating 2,500 calories per day. Look at his daily activity. To be in a deficit, let's say he's burning off 1,200 calories through activity. That brings his TDEE up to 3,000 calories. Because you have your BMR plus your daily activity equals your TDEE. If he's only eating 2,500 calories but he's burning 3,000, he's in a negative 500 net calories. If, again, we go back to where I said 3,500 calories is going to equal 1 pound of fat. So 7 days, a full week, times 500 is going to be 3,500. So if he can keep that caloric deficit for 1 full week, then he should, technically be able to burn 1 pound of fat in that week. For maintenance, BMR, you have 1,800, daily activity 700, so his TDEE and his caloric intake are balancing out. He's going to stay at the same weight. And then for surplus, if his daily activity is less than what he's consuming, say he's only getting 2,000, he's only burning off 2,000 calories that day, but he's consuming 2,500, he will be in a surplus of 500 calories. If he does that for a full week, he'll gain a pound. Okay. Positive energy balance, caloric surplus, is when you consume more calories than you burn. Simply eating more can lead to unsightly body fat. So if you're just eating more and you're in a surplus, you're probably just going to get body fat. If you eat more, plus you have a solid strength training routine, it can lead to increased muscle mass. So if you want to increase your muscle mass, for most people, especially when you are more advanced, you need to be eating more, you need to be in a surplus to build muscle. Muscle cannot come from nowhere. It needs energy. So you need to put energy in a surplus to create more muscle mass. All right. Bulking. So we're kind of talking almost bodybuilder-ish a little bit now. Bulking essentially is just a caloric surplus. It's a period of time when the primary goal is building muscle, gaining weight, increasing strength, or all of the above. Calorie intake is increased so a caloric surplus is present. The goal here is to build quality lean muscle mass while keeping fat gains to an absolute minimum. The pros, you're going to build muscle, you're going to build strength. If your body fat if you're starting at low body fat percentage, you may need more fat. You may need to build up more weight. And if you do build up more weight and you're already a low body fat percentage, it will help with proper organ and hormone function, vitamin absorption, and cell structure. So you do need fat on your body. Cons. If there's too much overfeeding, plaques can build up in arteries, the blood pressure and cholesterol in our body can increase. We can become insulin resistant and suffer from diabetes. We can increase our risk for certain cancers and so on. The body is highly adaptable to a variety of energy intakes and outputs. And it must be adaptable in order to survive. Therefore, mechanisms are in place to ensure stable energy transfer regardless of whether energy imbalances exist. Your body's always looking for homeostasis. It's going to want regularity, right? And we'll talk more about that later. All right, how to bulk the wrong way. This is what you don't want to do. Calorie intake isn't closely monitored. It's often referred to as a dirty bulk, all right? So you're just eating whatever you want, and you're not paying any attention. Nutrient intake also isn't closely monitored, other than maybe protein. A lot of guys who want to bulk up, they're focused on protein, but maybe not everything else. Food choices are typically dirtier, so higher intake of junk food. no cardio activity is done. Their primary focus is on gaining weight fast, and they don't really care how they do it. The higher your body fat percentage gets, the worse your calorie partitioning gets, and the more likely your body is to start storing excess calories as fat instead of muscle. For men, this typically means you want a body fat percentage of 10 to 13% or less. For women, it's going to be around 19 to 23% body fat or less. That's when you would want to start a bulk. Starting higher than that can work, of course. It just probably means you're going to yield suboptimal results. So if you are thinking about bulking, you want to build muscle, you really shouldn't be starting until you're in the lower body fat percentage. If you start higher, that's fine. Just realize you're probably going to put on more fat. All right, how to bulk the right way. Since muscle can only be gained so fast, the focus is on slow and gradual, yet still consistent increases in body weight to ensure muscle is being gained without a ton of fat coming along. In most cases, you will need to accept that some small amounts of fat gains you're going to take in some fat gains in order to gain muscle, all right? It's really no way around it, especially once you start getting more advanced. The only exceptions to this are if you have amazing genetics, if you're using performance-enhancing drugs, if you're a complete beginner to weight training and fairly overweight, if you're a teenager going through puberty with hormones in your favor, or if you're regaining lost muscle, you have muscle memory. So if you've already built that muscle before, and then let's say you get injured or ill, and you lose some muscle mass, it's a lot easier for you to get that muscle back than if you've never gained it in the first place. While these individuals may experience some muscle gain without fat gain, it most likely will be temporary and short term. These people may also experience muscle and strength maintenance or even increase during a cutting phase, although once again, this will only be temporary. So these individuals, it's going to be easier for them to build muscle while also dropping fat, but it's probably going to be temporary. It only lasts for so long. All right, again, how to bulk the right way. For most of us, the goal will be to maximize muscle gains while minimizing fat gain. A small caloric surplus. Novice and intermediate trainees can aim for about 1% of their body weight per month. Most of this will be trial and error and tracking your calories, macronutrients, and weight daily. So the closer you want to get to your ideal physique, the more you really have to monitor it, the more you really have to track everything. The looser you are, the less accurate you're going to be, and it's going to be difficult to get what you're trying to achieve. All right, an example, women might have a surplus of 50 to 250 calories per day. Men might have 75 to 500 calorie surplus per day, and that's going to be all individual. It's going to be up to you. Play around with the numbers. Again, it's trial and error. You usually want to start small. If you're not really gaining, you're just maintaining, you're going to slowly work your way up. But you essentially want to lean bulk, which means you're just in a slight surplus to make sure that you're mostly gaining muscle rather than fat. All right, this is a study. You don't need to eat loads to gain muscle. There's a study where they put elite athletes onto a weight training program. One group had no dietary guidelines, and the other had to ensure that they ate 500 calories more than the other group. Both gained the same amount of muscle, but the calorie surplus group increased their body fat by 15% over the next 8 to 12 weeks compared to less than 5% in the other group. All right, so the more you bulk, the more you overeat, the more fat you're going to put on. Essentially what it's saying, you can still build muscle while only being in a very slight surplus. And that way you can minimize your fat gain. All right, this is realistic lean body mass gain based on your training status. So if you're a novice, a beginner, you've been training for less than 2 years of a consistent training, you can expect to put on maybe 1.5 to 2 pounds of muscle a month. If you're intermediate, maybe you've been training for 2 to 4 years consistently, you can expect to put on maybe 0.8 to 1.5 pounds of muscle a month. And then the more advanced you are, the lower that muscle mass increases is going to happen. So more than 4 years of consistent training, you can expect maybe half a pound of muscle mass gained a month. women can expect to achieve the lower end of these figures. All right. Calorie partitioning. One of the biggest keys to reaching our muscle building goals will be our ability to improve our calorie partitioning in the right direction. Because the worse our calorie partitioning is, the more fat and less muscle we're going to gain. But the better our calorie partitioning is, the better our ratio of muscle to fat gains will be. And again, this kind of goes back to the other slides. If you're starting at a lower body fat percentage, your calorie partitioning will be better. If you're starting at a higher body fat percentage, the worse your calorie partitioning will be. So, see, I'm just going to do stuff you cannot control. Your genetics, your age, your gender. In general, men build muscle faster. Stuff you can control is your body fat percentage. So what body fat percentage you start at when you're bulking, your rate of weight gain, your calorie intake and the size of your surplus, your macronutrients, the percentages of your macronutrients, your nutrient timing, your meal frequency, eating style, food choices and diet organization, your weight training and your cardio program, your supplementation, your calorie tracking, and your ability to take action, be consistent, and put forth the required effort. So these are all the things you can control to help make sure that if you are doing a bulk, you will put on more muscle mass, take on less fat. All right, now we're going to talk about caloric deficit, negative energy balance. A calorie deficit is the energy gap that results when we expend more energy than we absorb from food over a set period. We typically talk about a day. Okay. Creating a caloric deficit forces the body to meet this energy shortfall from its energy stores. So if you're essentially starving your body, that's what you're doing, right? When you're starving your body's going to pull from its energy stores. It's going to pull from glycogen, your stored carbs, that's your number one energy source. It's going to pull from body fat, your stored fat, and it will also pull from your stored protein. So whatever carbs you have in your stomach, whatever carbs are in your body, that's what your body's going to want to use first, number one energy source. Then it's going to start pulling from fat once the carbs are all used up. And then last, and hopefully least, it will pull from protein from your muscles. With glycogen in limited supply, the aim during weight loss is to maximize the energy dragged from fat cells by maintaining as much muscle mass as possible. So the more muscle mass you have, when you're in a deficit, hopefully the goal is to maintain that muscle mass while dropping body fat. All right, pros of a large calorie deficit. It's almost immediate results in gratification. So that's why a lot of people are going to have a very high caloric deficit. You can get significant weight loss in the early stages of a diet, can improve motivation and adherence. Fastest rate of fat loss. Must account for metabolic slowing, which can occur after prolonged calorie restriction. Scheduled diet breaks can help with long-term adherence. Eating at maintenance levels for a couple of weeks every now and then to reset hormone levels, plus keep the fat loss progressing. That's why you use a diet break. There's a larger margin for error. If you make a mistake or eat 4 muffins when you really shouldn't, the deficit gives you a greater window to still be below your maintenance calories and not gain fat. Average over a week should be the number you are really concentrating on. All right. So when you're in deficit, you really want to focus on your full week. Cons of a large calorie deficit. You're going to have increased muscle loss. That's a real concern. Requires more willpower and determination to maintain the diet, so adherence is going to be difficult to adhere to. Deprivation can lead to falling off the diet completely or binge eating. Again, adherence. Not ideal for high-performance athletes. It will negatively impact recovery, muscular adaptations, and growth. It leads to slower metabolism as it experiences starvation levels of food intake. A gradual increase in calories over time to a maintenance level can reverse the effects of metabolic slowdown. We talked about earlier the adaptive thermogenesis. Decreases in bone mass, reductions in thyroid hormones, reductions in testosterone levels, an inability to concentrate, and a reduction in physical performance. And can also lead to a low sex drive. So these are the cons of going too big with your caloric deficit. Crash diet, I think I have another slide. Crash diets can work, and if you have a plan coming out of them, that may help push you in the right direction, but be conscious that there's a lot of negative side effects that can come with that. All right, now we're going to talk about cutting. Cutting is a period of time when the primary goal is losing fat, losing weight, getting leaner, or all of the above. Caloric deficit is achieved by decreasing calorie intake and or increasing your caloric expenditure. So moving more, exercising more. The goal here is to lose body fat while maintaining all of your hard-earned muscle and strength. So let's say you just went through a bulk, now you're going to try to cut down. You want to show off that muscle mass that you just put on during your bulk. The idea is to maintain as much muscle mass while dropping fat. How to cut the wrong way. If you go into an extreme caloric deficit, if you use extreme increase in cardio, which is something that a lot of people do, they'll really up their cardio. 30 to 60 minutes of steady state activity done 5 to 7 days per week is pretty normal. That's fine. Drastic changes to your workouts. Heavy weights plus low reps, then all of a sudden you change to low weight and high reps. Whether you're bulking or cutting, your programming doesn't really, your resistance training and all that doesn't really have to change that much. When you're in a surplus, because you're taking in more energy, you can probably deal with more volume. And that's where you're going to really want a lot of volume. When you're in a deficit, you still want to keep that intensity high, but you may not be able to recover from a ton of volume. So the training still can be similar, but you might decrease volume as you're taking in less energy. All right, drastic changes to your diet. Example, cutting out all fast food and going all clean. Eating nutrient-dense foods is definitely, should be a part of everybody's diet, but completely cutting out all junk food that maybe you enjoy can impact your adherence in a negative way. All right, switch from barely paying any attention to nutrient intake to now paying all sorts of OCD-like attention, also called orthorexia. Basically, when all you're thinking about is food and you need everything to be perfect all the time, that's when you can have a lot of problems with adherence. All right. How to cut the right way. Caloric deficit should be monitored. Cardio is optional, but definitely can help if programmed correctly. Protein is made a priority. Approximately, you should be getting 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. Again, you can do like a DEXA scan, find out how much lean body mass you have. If you're leaner, let's say you're under 200 pounds, you'll probably be safe with eating about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Then the heavier you are, that's not going to be realistic for really heavy individuals, but about 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, or maybe even closer to your body weight. In general, the deficit should be small for ease of adherence. Fast weight loss approaches with larger deficits can work when performed correctly for short terms. You want to incorporate diet breaks. Use trial and error to find the tools and strategies that work best for you. Popular strategies include calorie cycling and intermittent fasting. And then this is just a little meme showing calorie cycling. So if you prefer the same calories each day, let's say you're on an 1,800 calorie diet, you just eat 1,800 calories every single day. If you prefer more calories on workout days, and this is actually pretty popular for a body recomp diet, you are going to reach maintenance on your workout days, and then you can go into a little bit more of a deficit on your non-workout days. So if you're training, let's say 3 or 4 days a week, you're going to be hitting maintenance on those 3 or 4 days, and then you'll have a deficit on your non-workout days. If you like to go out on the weekend, you like to have fun, you like to party on the weekend, what you can do is cut your calories during the week and then place your higher calories on your Friday and Saturday nights. So you go out, you have fun, and then during the week, you're being good. Still, you want to be tracking those calories. Even if you're going out, you're having fun, you're drinking, you're partying, whatever on the weekends, you should still be planning ahead, tracking those calories. All right, diet breaks. Quote from Annie Morgan. When I say diet break, I'm usually referring to a period of 7 to 14 days where we purposefully increase calorie intake and loosen the counting restrictions we place on ourselves. There are also times of the year where I suggest you don't try to count your calorie or macro intake, such as for important holidays during the year, like Christmas Day, Thanksgiving, but for the purposes of this article, I'll describe things off rather than a break. So this is a diet break. You're taking a break from your diet. All right, the Matador study. There's a study in Australia. What they did, they were checking for a famine reaction. So during the study, they did 2 groups of participants who took part in a 16-week caloric deficit diet, right? One group maintained the diet for a continuous 16 weeks. The other maintained the diet for 2 weeks, then did a diet break for 2 weeks, eating simply to keep their weight stable. And they repeated this for a cycle of 30 weeks in total to ensure 16 weeks of dieting. So both groups dieted for 16 weeks total. One of them took breaks along the way. Those in the intermittent diet group not only lost more weight, but also gained less weight after the trial finished. The intermittent diet group maintained an average weight loss of 8 kilograms more than the continuous diet group 6 months after the study. So diet breaks in this study showed that you will not only lose more weight, but you're probably going to maintain it as well. All right, reasons for taking a diet break. Physiological reasons. A short period of regular eating has the potential to reverse some of the metabolic adaptations to a caloric deficit. Again, if you're in a caloric deficit for a long period of time, adaptive thermogenesis will kick in. It's going to slow down your metabolism. This will give the hormones time to recover to normal levels. This means that you'll be less hungry and pissed off all the time. You're going to have more energy, fewer cravings, and potentially you'll be able to eat more than you otherwise would have and still progress with your diet. So you're going to be able to take in more calories. Psychological reasons. The physiological reasons aside, taking periodical diet breaks is a good idea for the psychological benefits also. However, they are an underused tool in the dieter's arsenal, aren't sexy to talk about, and the people that would likely benefit from them the most, the type A stress heads, are usually the least willing to take them. So it's important to take it just for your own mental state. Take diet breaks. All right, the length and frequency of a diet break. Should be about 10 to 14 days, 2 weeks are recommended. Unfortunately, some hormones simply take longer to recover than other normal levels than others do. So there is no cutting a diet break short. So some people will try to do little breaks during the week, and that Matador study kind of did it as well, and it just didn't work as good as taking an actual full, like almost 2 weeks off from diet. Frequency depends primarily on our level of leanness. The leaner we get, the more our bodies hate us. The harsher the metabolic adaptations become, so the more frequently they should be taken. So the leaner you are, the more diet breaks you should be taking. All right? So body fat percentage. If you are a man and you are sub 10% body fat, you want to take a diet break about every 4 to 6 weeks, 10 to 15% every 6 to 8 weeks, 15 to 25% every 10 to 12 weeks, and then if you're 25% plus, which is going to put you more in like the obese range, you want to take one every 12 to 16 weeks, so every 3 to 4 months, you're going to want to take a diet break. If you're a woman, you can add 7% body fat to that. All right, caloric maintenance. So you're just trying to maintain your body weight. The pros, there's no calorie deficit, which is awesome. All right. It increases your metabolism, increased flexibility, can be easier psychologically. The cons, you're going to have slower progress. You're going to need more patience, which can be hard if you're trying to lose weight or gain weight. And you will not build muscle or lose fat fast. It's going to be very steady, very slow. In general, slow and steady progress towards your goals is more sustainable. It is important to allow your body time to adapt, adjust, and find homeostasis. Again, your body is trying to look for regularity, it's trying to look for homeostasis. It's important to take breaks from long-term surpluses, long-term deficits, to give your body time to kind of catch up. let your hormones catch up. All right, set point theory. The body weight set point theory is simple. It postulates that the body uses hormones, hunger, behavior changes, and other physiological mechanisms to defend a certain range of body weight, and body fat in particular. A simple way to think of this is as a thermostat or cruise control system for body weight and fat levels. Whatever numbers are set are what your body strives to maintain. A more accurate term would be settling points, since it is not fixed and unchanged. You have a set point, your body's going to want to stay in a certain range, a certain weight range. You can do a caloric deficit and change that range. You can do a caloric surplus and change that range. But your body's always going to be looking for homeostasis for normal weight ranges. How to change your set point. You want to focus your diet on nutrient-dense foods. You want to eat adequate protein. You want to exercise regularly. Get enough sleep. That's a big one. Manage your stress levels. Reduce your body fat. Add muscle to your frame. And you want to maintain for a good amount of time. If you're constantly bulking, you're constantly cutting, you're never giving your body a break, it's going to be very difficult to change your set point and stay in a certain range. All right, this is just 5 components to alter body composition. We have diet, resistance training, activity level. What I want to talk about is sleep. Recovery occurs during rest. In addition, it has been shown that non-optimal sleep can decrease fat loss and it can increase muscle loss. So they've done actual studies that have shown if you're not getting adequate sleep, it's going to be much harder to drop fat and it's going to be a lot easier to lose muscle. Also, your emotional and mental health. Long-term mental and emotional health can compromise your immune system and impact your ability to perform. Constantly feeling sad, angry, or stressed, you should contact a doctor, look into relaxation methods, meditation, and time management techniques. Just a bunch of different scientific facts on nutrition. We covered most of them. Go over this one. In general, low carbohydrate and low fat diets result in similar improvements in body comp and health in long term. However, if you are insulin sensitive, you may do better on low fat diets. Insulin sensitive people are usually people that are exercising, working out all the time. They're already in pretty good shape. They're usually going to do better on lower fat, higher carb diets. If you are insulin resistant, usually it's going to be people that are a little bit more overweight, not really exercising very frequently. They tend to do better on higher fat, lower carb diets. Now, preference and adherence matters. So if that doesn't work for you, then you have to kind of go with what works for you. But in general, that is what's going to help. We're not yet sure what the role the gut microbiome plays in obesity, but it is being studied a lot right now. It's something to pay attention to. Any hypocaloric diet plan that an individual can adhere to will cause weight loss, but different diets may affect adherence to different degrees in different people. So the big thing is finding tools, strategies, diet that is going to work for you. All right, so my references. All right, questions, discussion. Anybody got questions on anything?
I got a question.
All right, there's a lot of stuff I just threw at you.
No, that's good.
Okay.
I know one thing that our clients are really struggling with right now is in the weight loss and lean muscle mass, attaining lean muscle mass and losing fat mass.
Right.
What they should shoot for weekly and monthly, you kind of ran through it a little bit earlier. What would you say is a healthy goal to set when your goal should be not only to lose fat, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, let's say somebody's goal is to drop 20 pounds,
right?
And they say 20 pounds, should they be shooting to gain lean muscle mass, to remove fat mass, and what should be a goal?
So you have to look at their body fat percentage, and then also what their goals are, what they're comfortable with. If they're carrying too much body fat percentage, I think the main goal should be to cut. They should be trying to cut. They should still be doing resistance training to at least maintain. hopefully gain muscle mass, but at the very least maintain it. If you're not working out, if you're not lifting weights, you're gonna lose that muscle. So you need to keep lifting weights, you need to keep working out, so that at the very least you can maintain that muscle mass while trying to cut the fat. But yeah, we talk about calorie partitioning. The lower your body fat percentage gets, the better your body's gonna partition calories. So in general, like the more fat you carry, when you gain weight, the more fat you're gonna put on.
Yeah.
If you're leaner and you you have some muscle and you're lifting weights, you're gonna more likely put on more muscle rather than fat. So it's a better idea to get as lean as possible, well, that you're comfortable with, and then do a bulk. I wouldn't try to bulk if you already have a high body fat percentage.
Have you seen people get frustrated? Have you ever seen people get frustrated with the process of losing fat because they look at the scale and instead of reading, what their body fat percentage is, they're reading the scale and it's not moving as much as they'd like.
Yeah.
Have you had that come up
All
before?
the time. Yeah. I mean, scale's a big one, and I talk to different clients about, I'll say for me, I weigh myself every single day under the same circumstances. I tell my clients the same thing. Weigh yourself first thing in the morning, when you wake up after using the restroom, naked or close to naked, and always under the same circumstances. Always do it the same way. With that said, if they're freaking out about it, then we do it less, or not at all. But if they're cool with it, then we'll do it maybe like once a week, and then I'll take down how much they're weighing. And then I think other good ways are body measurements. I love body measurements, because then it's like, okay, the weight's not really moving, but I'm losing inches. And that's what I try to tell people is like, you see that number on the scale, but when you walk outside, that number is not hovering over your head. Nobody knows how much you weigh but you. So people are just gonna see your appearance. So if you're like, another one I like is before and after pictures. So if you're taking pictures, you wanna take them in the same lighting, in the same spot, around the same time of day, in the same type of clothing. Do before and afters, maybe once a month, every other month. That way you can do side by sides and you can see, okay, I'm losing fat in my arms, I'm losing fat in my legs, I'm getting tighter, my back's looking better. So like, okay, maybe the scale isn't really cooperating the way I want to, but I am looking better. And again, that's what people see when you go out in public. They see your appearance, they're like, okay, like I can tell, I don't know what your scale says, but I can see your body improvements.
I have a question. I know you talked about how to do the bulk, the cut. Can you go just really quickly about how people would go about reducing the calories, like where that calorie reduction should come from, and some maybe easy ways to go about cutting out calories?
I don't know if there's any easy ways, but protein is constant. So protein should always pretty much remain the same. I'd always keep again, 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. You want to kind of keep it there. Let's say, so I weigh 175 pounds. I take in 175 grams of protein per day, and I stay there. I'll try to even shoot over it if I can, but I'm always going to at least hit 175 pounds or 175 grams of protein per day. If I'm trying to bulk, I'm going to up mostly my carbs because I want more energy for working out. And then if I'm trying to be a deficit and lose weight, I'm usually going to drop my carbs. You can drop fat or carbs, it's really your preference. But especially for athletes, for like performance athletes, I think it'd be better to play with your carbs. Because carbs are not essential the way protein is. Protein is essential, you need it for muscle tissue to build muscle mass. Fat is essential for hormone regulation. If you don't have enough fat, your testosterone goes down, it's going to make it more difficult to build and maintain muscle mass. So carbs are really where I'm going to be focusing on going up and down. Easy ways? I guess, yeah, like protein shakes, protein bars, just keeping like healthy snacks available in your kitchen, leave them around, fruits, vegetables, like really easy, quick to grab things. That's more carbs, but still it's very nutrient dense. You do want to make sure you're hitting your micronutrients, getting your vitamins, your minerals, and all of that. But yeah, just making sure that you kind of plan ahead. If you have time for meal prep, that's awesome. If you don't, you could use a service, you know, like Clean Eats or any of those places, any type of service where they prep food for you, make it easier for you. Just make sure you're getting in a protein. Protein should really be your main focus. And that's when I'm looking at my diet, I make sure I hit calories first. Calories is number one, protein's number two. And then the fuel sources are your fats and your carbs. So those are secondary, they're a little bit more interchangeable. For me, it just depends on the day. One day I might want more carbs, one day I might want more fats.
This question goes to our clientele. When we have people sign up here, you know, we look at the training over the course of the year. We say to them, look, we're going to give you a full scale assessment, and we're going to say, here's where we want you to start. Here in month 3, month 4, this is where we'd like to take you next. Month 6 to 8, this is where we're going to be, and then we're going to finish the year here. And that's all in regards to training. Do you have any advice in regards to nutrition, how somebody that walks in and says, look, over the next year, I want to lose, you know, 30 pounds to 40 pounds, which I don't think is completely not reasonable, maybe like 20 to 30.
Right.
Can you take us through, you know, how you would scale that over the course of a year?
So let's say that they're obese, they're pretty big. They're in the obese range. Kind of what we were saying with the whole diet breaks thing, I would put them in a deficit. Well, first I'd try to use, you could use like a macro calculator or a TDE calculator online. You can use them for free. Figure out what their BMR is. It's all just an estimate. All of it's trial and error. But you can estimate what their BMR is. You can estimate what the total daily energy expenditure is. Get an idea of how many calories they're burning per day, and then you're going to give them a slight deficit. And I like to start the deficit as high as possible so that they're not miserable. And then we're going to work with that for about a month, maybe 2 months, just stay at that. If they're dropping weight, we stay there. And we just keep riding that train until they hit a plateau. If they hit a plateau, then maybe I'll go on a diet break for 2 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks, depending. And you need to talk to them and make them realize that when they go on a diet break, they might gain a little bit of weight back, at least scale weight, but it's mostly probably going to be just from extra water weight. So they're probably not really gaining fat. It's probably more water. So let them know psychologically, be prepared. The scale might go up a little bit. It's okay. It's going to come right back off. So you go on that diet break for, like, let's say 2 weeks, and then let's try to pump back into that caloric deficit. And just keep running it. And again, I try to start the caloric deficit as high as I can, and then once that runs out, we got to drop it down a little bit more.
Gotcha. It seems like that would work well with the training stimulus too. As you start getting more advanced, you know, you want that to be the focus.
Right.
So,
like progressive overload.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks guys for tuning in. Chris, excellent job on. I learned a ton on the energy balance. I hope you guys did as well. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. We'll be back in 2 weeks with Dr. Jason Kaliwa talking more about nutrition. So thanks again. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.